The Effect of Blind Obedience on Political Polarization by Leighton Fincham. The political division in our country has accelerated in recent years. Our country is more divided than ever and is creating a huge problem. According to Gordon Hetzel, PhD in Social and Personality Psychology, and his colleague Kristen Lauren, University of British Columbia, polarization can help democracies, but when it becomes too vast, such as the entire swaths of the population refuse to consider each other's views, this thwarts democratic methods for solving societal problems. Not too long ago, Republicans and Democrats used to be able to work with each other, and there were still moderate Democrats and Republicans. Now, according to Pew Research Center, there is only about 24 moderate Democrats and Republicans left on Capitol Hill, compared to more than 160 in 1971 to 72. Due to the rising polarization, we are unable to consider other parties' ideas because everyone is either on one side or the other. The main source of this polarization is blind obedience. People are blindly following their respective parties and not considering what other parties have to say. My argument is that blind obedience has accelerated the political polarization. I came up with this argument when I read about how blind obedience affects certain soldiers in the stimulus package. This sparked my idea to research where blind obedience affects other areas of life. Blind obedience leads to thinking negatively towards opposing parties, and it makes it almost impossible to consider other party ideas. This blind obedience is shown in many scenarios, but one of the most monumental scenarios where this is shown goes back to the Affordable Care Act. According to Michael McCarthy, after vowing to repeal Barack Obama's Affordable Care Act sent into passage in 2010, Republicans in the House of Representatives, Monday, 6 March, submitted a long-awaited replacement. As shown in this passage, the Republicans were opposed to the Affordable Care Act and even submitted a replacement bill. However, this was not the case when fellow Republican Mitt Romney implemented the same concept while he was the governor of Massachusetts. Jessica Taylor, the Senate and Governor's editor for the Cook Political Report, sheds light that Mitt Romney admitted that the health care plan he admitted while he was the governor of Massachusetts came before Barack Obama's Affordable Care Act. When Mitt Romney proposed a similar concept, there was no problem with it and it was passed in 2006. On the other hand, when Barack Obama proposed the Affordable Care Act, the Republicans were opposed to it and even proposed a replacement bill. Political parties have filled voters' heads with confirmation bias through sources such as the media, contributing to the political polarization and the confirmation bias in our society. This contributes to the polarization in our society and negative opinions on opposing parties. According to Tim Grolling, professor in the Department of Communication Studies at UCLA, further, in every case, the differences were found similar with the partisan stereotypes. ABC, CBS, and NBC all appeared to favor good news for Bush and bad news for Clinton, while Fox appeared to favor the opposite. This bias has been shown prevalent throughout news networks. This bias contributes to polarization because news channels are biased towards a specific party. So if people are watching that news channel and they hear good things about their parties and bad things about opposing parties, they will most likely stick with their original parties. Even so much that citizens are adopting an authoritarian ideology. Citizens are considering the media as the authority on the topic and not considering what other parties have to say. Even though blind obedience has been shown to have many negative effects on the political process, many argue that you need blind obedience to establish power and common leadership. According to Suzanne and Samantha Schweig, momentum is motion and growth. It is often the difference between winning and losing. Get enough momentum and any kind of change is possible. An example where this is shown is with Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Eliza Collins, a national political reporter for the Cook Political Report for Wall Street Journal, sheds light that she presents the words of Kyrsten Sinema, because I choose civility, understanding, listening, working together to get stuff done, I will leave the Senate at the end of this year. Compromise is a dirty word. We've arrived at that crossroad and we choose anger and division. I believe in my approach, but it's not what America wants right now. Kyrsten states that being independent and unaffiliated with either of the main political parties makes it difficult to be consistently elected into power. Even though many people think that you need blind obedience to establish momentum and common leadership, once this power is put into place, it is very difficult to deviate from party beliefs. Excessive polarization may be beneficial for establishing power, but once this power is established, excessiveness leads to a partisan divide. Overall, even though it's easier to establish power, this makes it harder to get things done as a country. In order to get past this polarization and consider other party ideas, moral courage among citizens is needed. Moral courage is needed for citizens to stand up to blind obedience, and bipartisanship is the only way to get things done. This solution will be very effective because it will allow for bipartisanship. Craig Bolden, a professor of public policy and politics at the University of Virginia, sheds light that those legislators who employ bipartisan tactics will distinguish themselves from lawmakers in their ability to move bills through the process of law. Bipartisanship has been shown to be effective. It's just a matter of people are willing to take moral courage. Ted Thomas from the Stimulus sheds light that it risks being isolated and singled out for painful personal consequences, such as ridicule, rejection, and loss of job and social standing. Even though there are consequences that come along with using moral courage, these consequences are short-term and are easy to get past. Moral courage among citizens is a very important step to an effective bipartisan government and can be easily applied if people are willing to face consequences. Thank you.
Nice job, Leighton. I've got a couple of questions for you. So, and when we're done with those, you'll be finished. So for the first one, how did your research question evolve from when you first thought of it all the way through the research process and up through the end? Could you tell us about that?
Wait, can you repeat it, please?
Sure. How did your research question evolve from the time you first thought of the idea all the way up to your final presentation?
So my research question evolved because it was at the beginning, how does blind obedience affect political polarization in our country? But it changed to to what extent does blind obedience affect this polarization, and to what extent, not how.
And why did you make that change? What was it about the research process that influenced you?
Well, I just found so many examples where blind obedience has been shown to have this effect. I already researched how it has this effect, but I feel like it would just be more beneficial to find examples of how, and to what extent.
Perfect. And then as a follow-up question, what are the implications of your findings to your community? What should people take from this?
People should take from this that you need to consider other parties' ideas and go outside your comfort zone. If you want to make a change as a country, our community needs to make changes themselves and go outside their comfort zone and consider what other parties have to say, not just their own respective parties.
Perfect. Thanks.